Picture the historic gold and silver pawn shop on Las Vegas Boulevard, its neon sign flickering as tourists stream past. Inside, artifacts from old Las Vegas lore rub shoulders with basketball memorabilia and rare coins. Everyone knows Rick Harrison as the old man of Pawn Stars and his son Rick Jr. as the quick-witted dealmaker who sealed the shop's fame. But lurking behind the camera's gaze is Corey "Big Hoss" Harrison, the burly, affable presence who rose from dusty showroom floors to the rank of manager. Fans have cheered his every move, yet few realize Corey never shared in the shop's formal ownership. Why did this happen? How did the grandson and son of the original founders end up without a single legal share in the very business his family built? From the day Richard "Old Man" Harrison and his wife Matilda opened the pawn shop in 1988, ownership was simple: 50% for Rick Sr. and 50% for Matilda. Their vision was clear: they'd run a no-nonsense, family-focused operation without outside investors. Corey came along, literally born into the business when his mother Leslie George brought him home just down the block from the shop. As a toddler, he toddled through aisles stacked with vintage guitars and gold ingots. As a teen, he rushed through physics homework to help with inventory counts. But when it came time to formalize ownership stakes, the founding partners never redrew the equity pie. They meant to. But life, paperwork, and the rising whirlwind of Pawn Stars' early filming schedule put those plans on hold. Meanwhile, Rick Sr. retained control of his half-share. Matilda, predeceased by only 4 years, left her 50% without a detailed will or trust specifying Corey as heir. Under Nevada intestacy law, her share defaulted back to her surviving spouse, Rick Sr., rather than to her second-generation offspring. As seasons of Pawn Stars rolled out, millions of viewers saw Corey gain responsibilities, but never the title of co-owner. He managed day-to-day operations, negotiated big-ticket pawn deals, and even represented the brand at trade shows. Yet behind the scenes, his role stayed that of an employee, salaried, performance-based, and absent from any shareholders' agreements. Fast forward to 2018 when Rick Sr. passed away. His estate plan was clear: his 50% went to Rick Jr. in a straightforward inheritance. Suddenly, Rick Jr. stood alone with 100% ownership, while Corey continued wearing the manager's headset and pocketing a share of profits in the form of bonuses and TV royalties. Rick Jr.'s strategic choice not to issue Corey shares kept the ownership structure tight and shielded the business from potential legal complications or outside claims that often follow restructured family enterprises. For Corey, this meant that despite his on-camera legacy and leadership role, every decision about equity, sale or expansion rested solely with his brother. Yet Corey's compensation model is far from punitive. He earns performance bonuses tied to revenue targets, substantial TV royalties, and licensing fees for his Big Hoss brand. He wields real operational clout over hiring, over high-stakes negotiations, even over the shop's promotional direction. His voice may not echo in a boardroom vote, but it resonates in every deal cut and every episode filmed. So, while Corey "Big Hoss" Harrison may not hold a deed to the pawn shop, he owns something arguably more valuable: the trust of millions of fans and the respect of a family empire that leans on his steady hand. Yet questions remain: will Rick Jr. ever offer Corey a path to formal equity? Could a future restructuring extend ownership to the entire Harrison clan? In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the legal agreements, estate documents, and personal decisions that cemented this unique family dynamic, and how it shapes the future of Las Vegas's most famous pawn shop. When it came time to formalize the pawn shop's ownership structure, Rick Sr. and Matilda faced a critical decision: how to register their business entity and allocate shares. They opted for a simple partnership, each holding a 50% stake. This arrangement kept books straightforward and taxes predictable, but it also locked in only 2 equity holders, with no mechanism for automatic second-generation inheritance. In other words, despite Corey's lifelong involvement, there was never an issued class of family shares for descendants. Partnership agreements often include buy-sell clauses to handle ownership changes, and the Harrisons' contract was no exception. Their provision allowed either partner to purchase the other's share upon retirement, death, or incapacitation, at a valuation determined by a pre-arranged formula. They chose this path to prevent outside parties from gaining entry, ensuring control remained in the family. Yet, crucially, there was no addendum granting Corey or any other child a right of first refusal to buy into the business. When Matilda passed without a will specifying Corey as beneficiary of her stake, her half defaulted under Nevada intestacy law back to her husband's estate. That intestacy rule, common throughout the U.S., prioritizes spouses over children, unless a will says otherwise. Because Matilda had not established a trust or designated Corey by name in her estate documents, Matilda's 50% simply reverted to Rick Sr. automatically. From an administrative perspective, this removed potential complications. A sudden third partner wouldn't emerge without consensus. But from Corey's vantage point, it meant that despite the sweat equity and family name he carried, he remained merely an employee and manager, not an equity holder. When Rick Sr. died in 2018, his pre-existing estate plan mirrored Matilda's, in its simplicity. His will bequeathed his entire half, now effectively 100%, to Rick Jr. This did two things. It consolidated full ownership under one Harrison descendant, and bypassed protracted probate disputes. Rick Jr. inherited the business unencumbered, free to restructure as he saw fit. He chose continuity, leaving Corey's role unchanged, manager in charge with profit-sharing perks, television royalties, and the Big Hoss brand licensing agreement that yields substantial annual income. From a legal standpoint, retroactively reissuing shares to Corey would trigger significant consequences. Nevada corporate law treats gift shares as taxable events, potentially exposing the business to gift tax liabilities or triggering regulatory scrutiny because Pawn Stars operates under strict licensing. Moreover, introducing a third equity partner would require renegotiating the buy-sell agreement, revaluing the entire enterprise, and possibly upsetting warranties held by lenders or licensors. In practical terms, Rick Jr. and the corporate council determined that preserving the existing structure was the safest path for long-term stability. Yet, Corey's absence from the cap table doesn't reflect a lack of influence. His annual bonus formula links directly to gross revenue and net profit margins. He chairs the daily inventory meetings, signs off on high-value appraisals, and oversees expansion into online auctions. His practical authority rivals that of any shareholder. Internally, staff see him as an equal partner, even if the ledgers say otherwise. That dichotomy fuels ongoing questions. Will Rick Jr. ever amend the partnership agreement to include Corey formally? Could a new business vehicle, perhaps a holding LLC, be created to vest minority shares without tax fallout? In our next section, we'll explore the personal dynamics behind those boardroom decisions, how sibling relationships, family loyalty, and the spotlight of reality TV shaped Corey's expectations and eventual acceptance of his unique role. Behind every tense negotiation and blockbuster deal on Pawn Stars, there's a quieter story unfolding, the one between two brothers raised under the neon glow of their parents' shop. Rick Jr., the measured face of the business, and Corey Big Hoss Harrison, the warm giant whose booming laugh and steady presence anchor the show. Together they project unity on screen. Yet beneath that veneer lies decades of sibling dynamics, shaped by family loyalty, the glare of reality television, and unspoken hopes for shared ownership. From childhood, Rick Jr. and Corey occupied different roles at the shop. Rick Jr., 2 years older, gravitated toward appraisal, learning the fine art of valuing rare artifacts. Corey, barely out of grade school, thrived in the back room, lifting heavy safes, sorting gold bars, and mastering logistics. Their father, Rick Sr., recognized each boy's aptitude and nurtured it accordingly. Rick Jr. was groomed as the numbers guy, Corey as the operational backbone. In those early years, day-to-day tasks cemented trust. Rick Jr. and Corey patched holes in the showroom floor, restocked shelves after busy weekends, and learned that the pawn business demanded both precision and muscle. When Pawn Stars debuted in 2009, the brothers found themselves thrust into a new arena. Cameras captured their banter, their differing negotiating styles, and perhaps most poignantly, the subtle deference Corey showed when Rick Jr. pulled rank. Early episodes hinted at an unspoken hierarchy. Rick Jr. held the authority to approve deals, while Corey played the peacekeeper, tempering sparks with humor. Fans sensed the chemistry, loving the brotherly jabs and the way Corey stepped back to let Rick Jr. shine on camera. But behind each filmed argument, or playful condescension, the men navigated real emotions about equity and recognition. Corey has never shied away from joking about his share status, sometimes ribbing Rick Jr. on social media, lightheartedly demanding a slice of the pie. Yet a closer look at interviews reveals a more nuanced reality. In a candid 2015 Red Rock Casino fundraiser speech, Corey admitted that formal ownership was never promised outright, but he also expressed gratitude for his role. "I get to wake up every day doing exactly what I love," he said. "And that's worth more than any piece of paper." His words suggest a man who found meaning in contribution rather than title. Still, the camera lights dim and the laughter fades. Did Corey harbor a lingering wish for a co-owner's clause when the partnership agreements were drafted? Reality TV intensified these undercurrents. Producers capitalized on sibling contrast, pitting Corey's gut instincts against Rick Jr.'s calculated analysis. Those story beats amplified the sense of a family power dynamic, subtly reminding viewers of an uneven stake in the company. Behind the scenes, though, the brothers maintained a code of solidarity. When negotiations got heated, their mother Leslie or sister Paige would gently intervene, diffusing tension with a phone call or a shared family meal. Over time, this support network reinforced Corey's acceptance of his operational identity: manager, negotiator, brand ambassador, but not a legal owner. Yet acceptance doesn't erase aspiration. Off-camera, Corey has quietly explored ways to deepen his investment in the business he helped build. He's expressed interest in co-founding a related venture, an online appraisal platform and merchandise line that would carry his name and possibly a small equity stake. Rick Jr. has signaled openness to these side projects, structuring them as separate LLCs to avoid interfering with the core partnership agreement. In doing so, the brothers may be charting a path toward Corey owning his own domain within the Pawn Stars empire, a symbolic, if partial, recognition of his years of labor. Family loyalty remains the ultimate glue. Rick Jr. knows that Corey's constancy, his presence on every season, his rapport with staff, and his ability to handle crises, makes the show and the shop a success. Corey understands that Rick Jr.'s sole ownership simplifies decision-making and shields the family business from fragmentation. They both honor their father's legacy by preserving the shop's unity instead of fracturing shares among multiple descendants. This shared devotion tempers any bitterness about legal equity. Their relationship has matured into mutual respect. In moments like Corey being honored with a Pawn Stars Day proclamation by the Las Vegas mayor, Rick Jr. stood proudly beside him, acknowledging publicly what fans already knew: without Corey's dedication, the shop wouldn't run. At industry panels, they field questions together, alternating between sibling teasing and heartfelt praise. Those public gestures underscore their solidarity, delivering a subtle counterpoint to the cap table reality. Still, the question echoes: could a future shift in ownership finally bring Corey formally into the fold? Some analysts suggest that as Rick Jr. plans long-term succession, perhaps preparing his own children for involvement, he may revisit the partnership agreements. Adding Corey as a third equity partner could bolster the brand's continuity, ensuring the Harrison name remains synonymous with the pawn shop for generations. Yet any such move will require balancing tax implications, regulatory approvals, and the delicate dynamics of a family business under public scrutiny. The story of Corey and Rick Jr. is one of parallel paths, one through formal equity, the other through operational mastery. Both brothers carry equal amounts of sweat, heart, and history into the glass-fronted pawn shop. Their bond, forged over decades of mending antiques and appraising treasures, transcends share certificates. This mutual understanding, tested and strengthened by cameras and contracts alike, stands as the true cornerstone of their legacy. In our next section, we'll pivot from personal dynamics to the future, exploring potential restructuring scenarios, expert commentary on family business models, and how Corey's evolving role may influence the Pawn Stars brand long after the lights of the Las Vegas Strip have dimmed. Looking ahead, the fate of the gold and silver pawn shop's ownership structure hinges on creative solutions that balance family harmony, tax efficiency, and brand continuity. One scenario gaining traction involves carving out a new entity, an LLC or trust, specifically designed to hold a minority share for Corey without disrupting the existing partnership. Under this arrangement, Rick Jr. could transfer a small percentage of profits or voting rights into a trust managed by an independent trustee. That trust would issue beneficiary units to Corey, granting him a financial stake while preserving the corporate shell of the original partnership. Family business attorneys note that such trusts can be tailored with buy-sell triggers, performance milestones, or age-based vesting schedules, smoothing the path from manager to owner over time. This phased approach mitigates gift, tax exposure and sidesteps the need to issue traditional equity shares, an attractive workaround for a multi-million-dollar enterprise bound by strict pawnshop licensing regulations. Another option lies in establishing a holding company above the pawnshop, with Rick Jr. owning 100% at the subsidiary level, but selling a minority interest at the holding level to Corey. By isolating the sale within a newly formed parent entity, Rick Jr. avoids tampering with existing licenses and operating agreements. Corey would receive units in the holding company, effectively giving him indirect equity in the pawnshop, while administrative control and licensing remain unchanged. Financial experts emphasize that this structure can enhance estate planning flexibility, allowing Rick Jr. to incorporate his children into the ownership mix in the future without recomposing the core business entity each time. It also opens the door for outside investment down the road, should the brothers ever decide to expand into franchising or digital pawn operations. To gauge the viability of these scenarios, we consulted family business strategist Dr. Allison Reed, author of Generations at the Table. She points to the Golden Triangle framework, which underscores the interplay of ownership, control, and family identity. Corey needs more than a paycheck. He needs a tangible connection to the brand's legacy, Reed explains. Structuring his stake through a trust or holding company respects the original partnership agreement while affirming his place in the Harrison lineage. It also signals to external stakeholders, lenders, licensors, even fans, that the Harrison stewardship will continue beyond Rick Jr.'s tenure. Reed cautions, however, that any transition must be accompanied by clear governance guidelines and regular family council meetings to address potential conflicts before they escalate. Meanwhile, industry analysts have begun drafting projections for how adding Corey as a formal owner could impact the Pawn Stars brand long-term. A minor equity grant at the holding level might boost Corey's motivation to spearhead strategic initiatives such as digital marketplaces, a branded appraisal app, or themed merchandise collaborations. Those ventures could generate fresh revenue streams and enhance cross-platform engagement, leveraging Corey's on-screen charisma in a way that traditional pawnshop operations cannot. Marketing specialists argue that formally integrating Corey into the ownership narrative could also refresh the show's storyline, providing viewers with a new era of Harrison family development to follow. After all, reality television thrives on evolution. A documented shift in ownership could yield compelling content and deepen fan loyalty. Yet some cautions emerge from corporate governance experts. Professor Martin Zhao of Nevada State University's Business Law Department highlights the risk of unequal decision-making power. Vestigation of Corey's stake must clarify voting rights versus profit rights, Zhao says. If Corey holds profitability units but lacks voting control, disputes could arise during major decisions, like selling the business or licensing the brand for international expansion. A clear governance charter, ideally ratified by all family stakeholders, is essential to prevent future deadlocks. Zhao recommends incorporating arbitration clauses and setting up a family advisory board to oversee strategic direction, thereby blending entrepreneurial agility with legal safeguards. Beyond legal scaffolding, culture and communication are paramount. Corey's evolution from frontline manager to formal partner requires ongoing dialogue with Rick Jr., staff and external partners. Town hall-style meetings mediated by an independent facilitator could ensure transparency around performance metrics, profit allocations, and future ambitions. Such forums reaffirm that, although share certificates matter, the Harrison family's true strength lies in trust built over generations. For employees and fans alike, witnessing Corey become an owner would symbolize the shop's commitment to legacy and continuity. As the Pawn Stars empire contemplates its next chapter, the interplay between legal mechanics and family dynamics will define the path forward, whether through a bespoke trust, a parent holding company, or a combination of both. Granting Corey a formal stake could cement his years of dedication while safeguarding the stability that Rick Jr. has maintained. Fans might tune in not just for rare collectibles, but for the real-life drama of a family forging its destiny in the neon glow of Las Vegas. And when Corey finally sees his name etched onto a share certificate, he'll know that every dusty antique, every appraisal debate, and every burst of laughter in that iconic showroom helped build more than a business. It built a family heritage destined for the ages. As any family business specialist will tell you, the journey from manager to part owner must clear more than emotional hurdles, it must satisfy every regulatory and fiscal requirement along the way. In Nevada, pawnshop licensing is notoriously stringent. The moment you introduce a new equity partner, you rewrite the license application and submit a fresh list of background checks, credit histories, and character references. Regulatory authorities will scrutinize Corey's financial statements and ask pointed questions about his source of funds before granting approval. Even a seemingly modest shift in the ownership ledger can trigger a full review of the entire license, increasing fees and extending processing times by weeks or months. Beyond state licensing, federal oversight can also complicate matters. The Patriot Act imposes anti-money laundering safeguards on pawn operators, meaning every shareholder must meet fit and proper investor criteria. If Corey's equity stake exceeds regulatory thresholds, it could require the shop to file additional compliance reports or to install new internal controls. These measures protect consumers and lenders, but they also underscore how incremental changes at the top reverberate through every transaction on the showroom floor. A background check that comes back inconclusive, or the need for special federal waivers, could stall Corey's ownership even after Rick Jr. and corporate counsel agree on terms. Then there's the tax side of the equation. Transferring shares to Corey via gift or sale involves navigating complex IRS rules. A direct gift of ownership beyond the annual exclusion limit, currently $15,000 per person, could tap into lifetime gift and estate tax exemptions, potentially saddling Rick Jr. or Corey with unexpected liabilities. Structuring a sale at fair market value might seem straightforward, but it raises questions about financing. Would Corey borrow funds, issue a promissory note, or offset his income from profit shares? And if he finances his stake through a leveraged buy-in, the interest payments and debt servicing agreements must be disclosed under both tax law and pawn licensing regulations. Accurate business valuation is essential before any share transfer. Independent appraisers will assess inventory turnover, television royalties, and intellectual property like the Pawn Stars brand. These valuations can range widely based on methodology, asset-based versus earnings-based versus market comparables, so Rick Jr. and Corey must agree on the approach up front to avoid disputes. A court-appointed valuation in the event of litigation could blow past their preferred timetable, forcing expensive legal proceedings. By contrast, a jointly commissioned appraisal gives both brothers control over assumptions and sensitivity analyses, smoothing the path toward consensus. Financing the purchase or structuring a gift also hinges on clear documentation. A gift agreement or share purchase contract needs to spell out payment terms, default provisions, and the exact mechanics of share registration. If Corey agrees to a phased purchase, acquiring 10% each year over 5 years, the agreement must lock in price formulas, dividend rights, and voting thresholds. Without this clarity, the shop risks future conflicts over valuation adjustments or capital calls if business performance deviates from projections. Similar family-owned ventures offer useful precedents. In one notable case of a multi-generational Nevada winery, the patriarch created a family-limited partnership and issued non-voting profits interests to his children. These profits interests granted economic benefits without immediately diluting control or requiring fresh licensing. As profits flowed to the children, they gained financial stakes and tax advantages, all while preserving the founder's voting majority. Pawn Stars lawyers could adapt this model by issuing Corey non-voting profit units tied to shop revenues, deferring a full equity grant until licensing approvals are secured. Pitfalls remain, of course. If regulators conclude that a profits interest structure effectively changes control, they might still demand a new license. Federal anti-money laundering examiners could interpret complex partnership arrangements as attempts to circumvent ownership rules. Tax authorities might challenge the classification of units, arguing that profit interests constitute gifts. To guard against these risks, every drafted agreement must undergo peer review by experienced pawn licensing attorneys, corporate tax advisors, and family business consultants working in concert. Mitigation strategies focus on rigorous governance. A formal operating agreement or family council charter can establish decision-making processes, dispute resolution mechanisms, and clear definitions of profit versus voting rights. An independent board member, a trusted attorney or retired regulator, can serve as a neutral advisor, signing off on any share transfers. Quarterly family council meetings ensure that Corey's evolving role is documented, concerns are aired, and successes are celebrated before they morph into resentments. Public perception also matters. Fans tune in to Pawn Stars expecting both treasures and genuine family dynamics, crafting a narrative around Corey's transition, showing him earning shares through milestones, celebrating small anniversaries, and unveiling symbolic share certificates on camera, can turn a dry legal process into compelling television. Social media teasers and behind-the-scenes clips can drum up excitement and transform viewers into cheerleaders for Corey's new status, reinforcing brand loyalty and driving ratings. At its heart, the question of ownership is more than a ledger entry. It's about honoring a lifetime of sweat equity while safeguarding an enterprise that carries the Harrison name. With every appraisal and every grain of collateral that passes through its doors, Pawn Stars has built a legacy measured in trust, expertise, and entertainment. Granting Corey a formal stake, executed with regulatory precision, tax efficiency, and heartfelt storytelling, would not only validate his contributions, but also set the stage for the family's next generation of pawn legends. As we bring this exploration full circle, it's clear that Corey Big Hoss Harrison's journey from showroom prodigy to potential co-owner hinges on weaving together legal ingenuity, family alignment, and audience engagement. We've traced the origins of a two-member partnership that inadvertently excluded him, unpacked the nuances of estate law that funneled full ownership to Rick Harrison Jr., and examined sibling dynamics shaped on camera and off. We've navigated creative structuring options from bespoke trusts to parent holding companies, and assessed the regulatory, tax, and corporate governance hurdles that any shift in shareholding would trigger. Now let's consider what the next chapter could look like, why it matters to fans and stakeholders alike, and how Corey's formal inclusion could reshape the legacy of the gold and silver pawnshop. Imagine a scenario 12 months from now. A supplemental episode airs documenting Corey's progress toward earning a 10% stake in the business. Cameras roll as he sits down with an independent trustee to sign trust documents securing his beneficiary units. Viewers witness Rick Jr. and Corey discussing milestone criteria, revenue targets, appraisal counts, and fan engagement metrics tied to merchandise launches. This narrative not only demystifies the complexities of business structuring, but taps into the core appeal of reality TV, real people navigating real stakes. Fans tune in not just for rare coins or custom guitars, but for the authentic evolution of a family brand in real time. From a brand perspective, formalizing Corey's equity could unlock fresh storylines and revenue streams. Merchandise lines branded Corey's Curios might debut alongside a limited edition Big Hoss appraisal kit, complete with calipers, loop, and certificate of authenticity, all promoted through his social media channels. A quarterly web series could chronicle his experiences in the family council, inviting subscribers to vote on hypothetical deals or suggest appraisal challenges. These digital extensions deepen audience loyalty, increase time spent with the brand, and create new monetization avenues apart from on-screen deals. More broadly, acknowledging Corey's stake signals a commitment to continuity, assuring fans and business partners that the Harrison legacy will thrive across generations. For the Harrison family, the practical benefits are equally compelling. Structuring Corey's stake via non-voting profit units or trust-held shares preserves Rick Jr.'s decisive control, while granting Corey tangible upside. It also sets a blueprint for future heirs. Rick Jr.'s children could receive similar beneficiary interests in a staggered fashion, fostering a sense of shared destiny without the pitfalls of fractionalizing core governance. Regular family council meetings, facilitated by an independent advisor, can codify decision-making rights, dispute resolution processes, and performance expectations, reducing ambiguity that often besets multi-generational businesses. This clarity boosts employee morale, as staff recognize that leadership transitions will unfold transparently and equitably. Regulatory compliance, though rigorous, becomes a manageable checkpoint rather than an insurmountable barrier. By isolating any share transfers at the holding level or within a trust, the shop sidesteps the need to reissue primary pawnshop licenses. Background checks for Corey and any future beneficiaries can proceed discreetly, supported by legal counsel experienced in gaming and pawn licensing. Tax consequences are mitigated by structuring gifts under annual exclusion thresholds and leveraging lifetime exemptions strategically. With detailed buy-sell provisions and performance triggers in place, Corey's acquisition of units can unfold incrementally, aligning with liquidity events such as merchandise launches or online auction milestones. Financially, the move signals stability to lenders and partners. Banks and private equity investors often view clearly delineated ownership structures as lower risk, knowing that governance charters and family agreements define exit strategies and dividend policies. Should the Garrisons ever seek capital for expansion, perhaps opening a second Las Vegas location, or launching a branded appraisal app, Corey's ownership status and documented track record strengthen the balance sheet. Strategic partnerships, like collaborations with coin grading companies or vintage car auction houses, become more attractive when the Harrison leadership is formally diversified and committed. But beyond balance sheets and legal filings, the most profound impact lies in honoring shared sacrifice. Corey's decades of lifting heavy safes, fielding long-distance appraisal calls, and negotiating billion-dollar deals under hot showroom lights reflect a level of dedication that transcends a simple paycheck. A formal grant of equity would validate that commitment, proclaiming to employees, peers, and fans that his sweat equity matters in the same way as any signature on a title of ownership. It closes a generational loop, affirming that the Harrison name isn't merely a legacy to be upheld but a living institution to be stewarded by every invested family member. For fans who have watched Corey grow from the kid helping stack baseball cards to the manager commanding the floor, this shift would be more than corporate minutia. It would be a story of recognition, reward, and evolution. It would reaffirm why Pawn Stars resonates: the fusion of antiques and personal narrative, of tangible treasure and emotional stakes. Corey's formal inclusion transforms a behind-the-scenes legal dance into a public celebration of family hard work and the entrepreneurial spirit. As we conclude, remember that no chartered company can thrive without investing in its people. Corey Harrison's path from manager to minority owner embodies that principle. By combining strategic trust vehicles, creative corporate structures, and the connective power of authentic storytelling, the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop can ensure that its most trusted lieutenant holds not just the keys to the showroom, but a stake in its destiny. And when the day arrives that Corey's name appears on official ownership documents, it will echo far beyond Nevada's licensing board, resonating in every home where viewers have cheered for the Big Hoss, trusting in his strength, his integrity, and his rightful place in a pawnshop empire built on family.